Demethius Jackson, and you're listening to a reading of my book entitled The Realmsic Conquest, The Hero of Legend. Chapter 23. An eerie essence lingered in the midnight air as Maebus and Kelm entered the small mountain town. Sloshing through mud-filled streets, they observed their surroundings. Since the weak were often preyed upon, Maebus tried to conceal his limp inside the bagginess of his robes. But such attempts at disguise were pointless, as no one was present on the town streets. The mountain air carried a sharp chill that befitted the scene. Like many of the northern towns, this place at one point boomed with potential, yet fizzled before any real development could be attained, Kelm explained as they sloshed past rows of buildings. If it weren't for the candle fixtures that burnt every few yards, Maebus would have believed the town to be completely deserted. The main road cutting through town was actually part of the original pumice path, but centuries of neglect had withered it away. Its cobblestone had been removed, or perhaps over time had just sunken into the semi-frozen mud, often called perma-mud. Many of the buildings were made of wood, their structures erected on solid ground as opposed to a stone foundation. This made the buildings tilt unevenly over time as they settled deeper into the mud. "What is this place?" Maebus asked. "Death and despair," Kelm replied. His words only enhanced Maebus's apprehension. Never had he seen so miserable a place, made even starker by the absence of people. The deep mud gouged long treks in the road, making the ground difficult to walk on. No part of the road seemed solid. Their weight was supported only by the compacted pressure under their feet. Maebus balanced himself by leaning onto Kelm. They shuffled along, trying not to cause any more damage to his leg. Not having full mobility frustrated him. It felt like a blatant insult to an already precarious situation. "How's your leg holding up?" Kelm asked. It took Maebus a moment to hear the question. His eyes darted back and forth, staying vigilant of their surroundings. "It's manageable," he said. He felt, rather than heard, the strain in his own voice. "It'll feel better once I'm able to lay it down, but it doesn't seem like this town will offer a suitable place to stay." "Define suitable," Kelm said. Maebus smirked. "What I mean is that finding shelter may be a challenge, as it seems this town has been deserted for quite some time. Actually, this town is heavily populated." Maebus's face tightened with surprise. "You're kidding, right?" "No, I'm very serious," Kelm stated. "People have been watching us ever since we arrived here. Granted, I can't see our watchers, but I can sense them, even feel their eyes upon us." That explained the eeriness Maebus felt. His body instinctively tensed despite his broken leg. His eyes darted from side to side as he tried not to turn his throbbing head. "Are we in danger?" he asked anxiously. No, I sense no threat. The natives are just curious is all. I'm sure visitors don't arrive here very often." Maebus relaxed, somewhat. "We'd do well just to head for shelter and stay there," Kelm continued. "I'm hoping this town has an annal." Annal was a term Maebus hadn't heard since his days as a disciple. He remembered reading that it was part of the noble laws. It was the duty of the archival order to establish at least one records depot for each community throughout the kingdom. The annals were public places maintained by archivist wizards, who kept track of births, deaths, and historic events in that particular region. Unfortunately, due to the wars, annals became difficult to maintain, and many fell into ruin. Kelm assessed that if this town indeed had an annal, vacant or not, they would be able to stay there a few days, hopefully undisturbed. "Annals are usually located in the center of town," Kelm added, "and the building should be marked with the symbol of order." Together, they continued walking. Maebus's attention was drawn in every direction as shadows quickly appeared and disappeared. Undoubtedly, they belonged to the inhabitants of the town, secretly scrutinizing them. The notion thoroughly troubled Maebus. "I think that's it," Kelm said, as they arrived at the center of town. The structure ahead of them was unimpressive and slanted into the ground like all the other buildings. But unlike the others, there was a distinct yet faded circular symbol painted on its upper level. A golden sun with a triangle in the middle. This, Maebus knew, symbolized containment, order, and wisdom. They approached the front entrance of the building. Maebus kept watch beside Kelm as he tried the handle, but the door was locked. He cupped his hands around his eyes, peering into one of the large glass window panes. "What do you see?" Maebus asked, his breath fogging in the frigid air. It's a disheveled mess in there, Kilm replied. Maebus pressed his half-frozen hands upon the glass and peeked through. Papers and books were thrown upon the floor. Shelves were knocked into one another, and table surfaces were cracked in half. The area inside is smaller than I was expecting, Kilm continued. But then again, most things in the realm usually aren't what I expect them to be. Without warning, Kilm's right hand began to glow white. Pressing it lightly upon the door handle, the entrance blew open, despite being locked. Maebus was startled by the noise. He hadn't realized his stomach was knotted until it finally loosened. Together, they stepped inside. Kilm then relocked the door behind them. The dust within the annel was incredibly thick. They both held their breath until most of it settled back onto the floor. Be careful, this floor is uneven, Kilm said as he helped his friend navigate the litter. The main room was completely dark, save the areas of light that shone in from the street candles. Although dim, there still existed enough ambient light for them to see their way through the annel. Holding on to the walls for support, the two made their way across the main room to a flight of stairs that led to a second level. We'll be safer upstairs. You're going to have to hop on your good foot, but hold on for 1 second, Kilm instructed. The wizard pressed his foot onto the first step. It creaked from his weight, but otherwise felt strong. He then took the next step, and the following, until he reached the second floor. He seemed satisfied with the integrity of the staircase as he went back down them. Maebus threw his arms around Kilm's neck once more and proceeded to hobble with him up the stairs. The second level was just as dusty as the first, except for a single overturned bookshelf. It was completely vacant of any other books or furnishings. Kilm and Maebus hobbled over to the main window and plopped on the floor underneath its light. Propping his back against the lower portion of the wall, a sense of relief rushed through Maebus. Kilm placed the king's battle sword and the small travel bag they had next to the wall. Sitting down next to Maebus, he rolled up the pant leg to examine the fracture. How does it look? Maebus asked. Kilm's eyes softened as he analyzed the wounds. I'm pleased the journey hasn't agitated it further. He cupped his hands together. Immediately, they vibrated a deep healing blue color as he placed them upon the wound. The warmth of his hands seemed to soothe the throbbing leg. It'll be a slow process, Kilm said while concentrating, but ultimately the leg will heal. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to share it.